Hello everyone and welcome back to this series that I'm going to start, and that is going to be object-oriented programming using Java. Okay, so we're going to learn about the object-oriented programming in this series. So we're going to cover everything related to OOPS basically. Okay, many beginners, they don't understand what exactly is OOPS and why it is required at the first place. Many are confused regarding this, and especially the people who are beginners or they are kind of just started developing softwares and all, so they get confused. So this series is going to clear all the doubts. Now OOPS is something we have it in Java also, we have it in other programming languages like Python also. So it's the concepts is same almost all in every language. So this is also going to be a video where I'm going to talk about the general OOPS. Okay, so now that I have said all that, okay, let us start with the object-oriented programming, and that is going to be in Java. Okay, so the first is you need to understand one thing, that okay, when you as you start coding, okay, as you start coding, what happens is, this is what happens basically. The code becomes chaotic as the project grows. So the traditional coding where we actually start everything, we mostly maintain a lot of code in a particular file, okay, and there is no concept of OOPS into it. It becomes chaotic and it kind of becomes a lot of mess. So over here we call this as a spaghetti code that is unmanageable and fragile. Okay, so such a code where there is no OOPS concept, what happens, it is unstructured. Okay, and there are unstructured dependencies also. So what happens over here, writing code line by line works for small tasks. Okay, so if you are a beginner, so you might feel, okay, we write a small program and we really don't require OOPS. You are perfectly okay. You are right on that. Okay, when we write some small task, we do not really require OOPS. But if you are developing a software, okay, even if the code goes a bit few thousand lines or 2,000 or 3,000 lines, then we need to have we need to have a tool which can manage that code, and that tool is basically, you can say, that is the OOPS concept. Okay, so adding new feature makes the code tangled and confusing. Okay, fixing a bug is one of the place accidentally breaks something else, and this is one of the major issue that previously, when there was no OOPS, people used to develop it and something goes wrong and then everything comes crashing down. And this is what happens if this is not OOPS based. Okay, if it's not based on OOPS. So we need a better way to organize our instructions. So the bottom line is we require OOPS to manage the code properly, and that's the bottom line for OOPS, and that's the reason why it has been introduced. Okay, so that we can manage a huge software with very less effort to basically manage it. Okay, so what happens with traditional programming? This is what happens. As you can see this picture, this is what happens. Okay, you keep on building one above the task, you keep on adding the tasks, right, and ultimately there will be cracks. This is what happens with the traditional programming. So traditional programming, it follows a strict top to bottom sequence of commands. Data and logics are scattered across the entire program, and reusing a specific piece of code is difficult and requires reading hundreds of lines to understand a simple action. Okay, I've been doing this. Okay, I've done this before. I've been traditional programming, I've done this before, and I know personally it's very difficult to manage. Okay, so then comes OOPS as a solution. So OOP model, object-oriented programming system. There is small s at times, or else we can just refer this as a OOP or OOPS. That is object-oriented programming systems. That S stands for. So model software after the physical world. Basically whatever is there. Okay, practically we need to model that. Okay, now there are certain things, if you're a beginner and you're learning OOPS, so I'll be using certain terms that you will not understand it right away, but as we progress, then you're going to understand the meaning of the words, what I'm trying to say actually. Okay, a programming paradigm based on objects and classes, and that is the strength of OOPS. Okay, that we can actually model everything. Like over here, the car is a model, the user ID, okay, user account is an object, and the shopping cart is also an object. So everything is an object, and we can, every object has certain attributes and certain behavior. Okay, so what we do is we organize the logic and into distinct self-contained modules. So we design, it is something that promotes modulation. So we will be developing some modules, and the modules will have certain tasks, that is the functions and so on, right? And we kind of group them together as well. The groups related data and behavior together. Okay, and translates real world concepts directly into Java code. So everything is a model, and the class and objects. That is very, very important to understand. We are going to understand this in the next slide, and this is where we are. This picture is a perfect example, or it really can make you understand what exactly is the difference between a class and an object. Now, many students, I've come across many coders also, so they get confused with this. Okay, the class is nothing but a blueprint, and always we hear that. Now, what is a blueprint? As you can see, there is an architecture who has just drawn that figure over here, that how that house is going to look like. Okay, so we need to construct a house, so the architecture on a piece of a paper will do all that drawing with the proper measurements and all, like what will be the height, what will be the width, and everything, right? There is a calculation of everything. So this what the architecture does is just a blueprint, right? And that is a class. So what is a class? Class is a blueprint only. It doesn't have any physical existence. It is just on the piece of paper, you can say this. Now this figure doesn't have it. This doesn't say that, that this house has been built. No, it's on a piece of a paper. It's just a blueprint that how the house is going to get built and what will be the measurements, right? And then what is the object? The objects are real entity. Now you can say there are 3 houses. So these 3 houses, if physically present, these are objects. So when we have a blueprint, we can create multiple objects, right? We can create multiple objects onto it. So the same blueprint is being used for all the houses. Okay, so the concept or a template, that's what the class is, defines structure and rules. Okay, you may write this once. Okay, so obviously this picture will be only drawn once, and from this picture I can design the houses the way I want. I mean, the number of houses that I want, I mean to say. Okay, and the objects are the real physical creation. It holds its own unique data, and you can build as many as you need, as I told you, right? So this is the perfect picture example where we can understand the difference between the classes and objects. Now when we are going to implement classes, we will creating the objects. You might get confused again when we start coding, but do not worry, we will understand it. Okay, I will make you understand it. So now let's move forward, and these are the 4 tools that you need to master if you want to develop softwares. Okay, these are the 4 tools. And what are the tools? That is encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. Now what is encapsulation? One by one. Okay, encapsulation protects your data inside a secure vault. Okay, wraps data code together into a single secure unit. So your data is always protected. It's in a kind of a unit. Okay, it's wrapped inside a unit. What is data? When data, we are referring, data is, okay, maybe the object variables that we are referring to. Okay, as I said, few things you will not understand it right away. As we move forward in the tutorial, you will get it. Okay, It prevents accidental changes and bugs. Okay. Then if you even if you want to change something, you will be changing only to that particular class. Okay. Hide sensitive internal working from the rest of the program. Okay, what's inside that is hidden. Okay, that's encapsulation. And other code can only interact through approved specific methods. Okay, so there is a kind of a password required to access this. It is a similar thing that happens. Okay, we can hide the data, and we can only give the access to the data through some methods. Okay, that we will see in the future. So that's encapsulation. That is basically wrapping the data and code inside a single secure unit. Okay, and it hides the sensitive internal working from the rest of the program, and other code can only interact through approved and specific methods. Inheritance. Without inheritance, there cannot be software development in today's time. We need inheritance. Allows new classes to absorb the properties of the existing class. If you already have a class, you can extend that. We can inherit that, and we can add more features to it the way we want. And then that will be an inherited class. Okay. So creates a logical parent-child relationship and removes the need to copy and paste identical code. Makes adding new variations incredibly fast. Just like the example is given over here, there's a vehicle. Assume that this is a class. So vehicle has engine and wheels. But from the same vehicle, now vehicle can be a sports car, it can be a truck, vehicle is a vehicle, right? But if we have a sports car, it will have its own unique engine. It will have its maybe different kind of wheels, but yes, it inherited from vehicle. Plus it will have some additional features. Maybe it has a spoiler. Okay. But if you talk about the truck also has a powerful engine. It has wheels, but it will have a flat bed. So these are some additional features for truck. These are some additional features for sports car, but they have been inherited from vehicle. Okay. Next, polymorphism. This is very, very important. Adapts a single action to different contexts. It means many forms in Greek. Polymorphism. Okay. Allows different objects to respond to the same command in their own way or in a different way. Reduces the need for complex, messy decision-making code and keeps your main program simple and flexible. So if you have a play button, now this play button can be playing a song, it can be about starting a video, or it can be launching a video game. But all has the same thing, that is play. Okay? We are going to understand this in the future. So, abstraction. What is an abstraction? Abstraction basically hides the complex machinery from the user. Always we give an example of a car like this. I've shown a car. So obviously we drive a car, but we do not know what are the internal mechanism, how it is working. So there are so many units working together to make this car work, right? To make this car run. So focuses on what an object does, not how it does it. We are only concerned about the steering, but we are not concerned about the internal functionality of the car. The user only sees essential features like steering wheel, the dashboard, and all that, right? The complex background logic is completely hidden. The engine is hidden. Makes large software systems much easier to use and navigate. So that is abstraction. Okay? So, now understand, this is also a very important picture. Now we had this messy code, a spaghetti code over here, and we turn that spaghetti code into a well-organized modules or units, you can say. Team can work on different objects at the same time without clashing. So one team can work on one module, another team can work on the another module, and so on. So that makes the code manageable a lot. Bugs are isolated. So if there is any bug, any error, so it might be only in this particular module. If anything goes wrong, it's only in this module. So we need to just focus on this module and not on the rest of the modules. And this is one of the biggest advantage. Okay, new features can be snapped into place without rebuilding the system. We don't need to rebuild anything, just extend, okay, just inherit, and then you can just add more features. So your Java project can grow from tiny scripts to the entire the enterprise application. Okay, so your Java project can grow from a tiny script to enterprise application. So you start something small, but if that small project is based on OOPS, then you can make that project turn into a really big and enterprise application. And that's the power of OOPS. So I hope that these concepts are very much clear. So we learned about, we'll be writing the first Java program very soon in the next video. Okay. And over there, we will see how to create a class, how to create objects. Okay. So what we have learned today is object-oriented paradigm at a glance. Okay. That is encapsulation. That is, the data is hidden, right? It has been wrapped inside one unit. Polymorphism, as I told you, inheritance, and abstraction. So these are the four major, these are the four major characteristics of OOPS. And if you are into an interview and you have been asked the main characteristics, so these are the main characteristics of the OOPS. Okay. So in the next video, we will be going to the VS Code and we will be typing our first Java program. Okay, that is based on OOPS. So this series is based on OOPS. I'm going to teach about OOPS. I'm not going to teach about the basic Java. Okay, what are the primitive data types, non-primitive data types, that I'm not going to teach. This is for OOPS. So you need to have certain background, certain things you need to know about Java, the Java basics. Okay, so let us meet in the next video. Thank you so much.